The war had raged for 17 cycles when Alara Wynn found the cub crying among the wreckage. She should have killed it. Any other human soldier would have. The Crithians had burned Earth's colonies, vaporized entire stations, left thousands of her people floating frozen in the void. Their crystalline warships cut through space like shards of hate, and their warriors showed no mercy. But the cub was small, no larger than her forearm, its scales shimmering between blue and frightened gray. It made a sound that pierced through her combat armor's audio filters, a keening that sounded too much like a human infant for comfort. Ilara's rifle remained pointed at the small creature for a full minute. Behind her, the settlement burned. The Crithian raiding party had already retreated, leaving only destruction and this abandoned thing that couldn't even open its triple-layered eyes yet. She lowered her weapon. "Command will execute me for this," she muttered, scooping the cub into her arms. It latched onto her immediately, tiny claws gripping her armor plating, and that mournful cry finally stopped. Naming him Kor was a mistake. It made him real, made him hers. Ilara kept him hidden in her quarters on the research station, feeding him nutrient paste and stolen rations. She told herself it was temporary, that she'd hand him over to xenobiology eventually, let them study him, and learn Crithian weaknesses. But Kor grew, and with growth came personality. He learned to mimic her words with chirping approximations. He followed her everywhere on stubby legs, scales shifting to match his moods, green for contentment, yellow for curiosity, orange for hunger. When she returned from patrols exhausted and grief-stricken, he would curl against her chest, purring in a subsonic frequency that somehow eased the nightmares. By his first molt, Kor was the size of a large dog, his intelligence unmistakable. He understood human speech even if his vocal structure couldn't quite replicate it. He learned to read emotions from facial expressions, something Crithian warriors supposedly couldn't do. When Ilara wept over casualty reports, Kor would press his forehead to hers, a gesture she later learned meant shared sorrow in Crithian culture. The secret couldn't last forever. They came for her during third shift. Security team, weapons drawn, faces hard. Someone had talked. Someone always talked. Step away from the hostile Lieutenant Wynn, Kor, now nearly her height and heavily muscled, positioned himself between Ilara and the guards. His scales flashed red, the Crithian war color. A deep rumble emanated from his chest. "Stand down, Kor," Ilara said quietly. "These are friends." "Friends don't aim weapons at Mother," Kor said, his translator finally adequate for full sentences. The guards froze, not at his words, but at the fact that he'd spoken them at all. Commander Reeves pushed through the security team, his weathered face unreadable. "Lieutenant Wynn, you've been harboring an enemy combatant for," he checked his datapad, "3 years?" "He was a baby," Ilara said simply. "He still is, by Crithian standards. They don't reach maturity until their 10th year. He's a Crithian. They killed your brother on Europa. They killed your entire squad on Titan." "I know what they did." Ilara's voice was steel wrapped in ice. "I was there. I held Marcus as he died. I watched the Crithians show no mercy, no hesitation, no recognition that we were even alive in any way that mattered to them." She put a hand on Kor's scaled shoulder, felt him trembling with restrained aggression. "But Kor isn't them. He's never known their hate because I never taught it to him. I taught him that humans feel pain, that we love, that we're worthy of consideration. And he learned, Commander. He learned in a way his entire species apparently can't." Reeves stared at her for a long moment. "You've committed treason." "Yes, sir." "You should be executed." "Yes, sir." "But we're losing this war, Lieutenant. We're losing because we don't understand them, and they don't understand us." He turned to Kor. "Tell me, young Crithian, why do your people fight us?" Kor's scales shifted through several colors before settling on a thoughtful purple. Because you are small and soft and die easily, and that which dies easily cannot be people. This is what the war speakers teach. And what do you believe? I believe Mother is people. I believe she bleeds and hurts and dreams. I believe she is more people than any Crithian I will ever meet. His scales flickered to a color Ilara had never seen before, deep amber with golden highlights. I believe the war speakers are wrong. The first diplomatic contact happened 3 months later, with Kor serving as translator and cultural bridge. His presence shocked the Crithian delegation, an adult male raised by humans, speaking both languages, his scales displaying emotions they thought impossible for their kind. The negotiations took 18 months. Not peace, not yet, but a ceasefire, a chance to talk, a chance to learn. Kor became a symbol, traveling between human and Crithian territories, proving that understanding was possible, that the galaxy's most bitter enemies could raise each other's children and find something other than hate. They called Ilara Mother of Two Realms, first in mockery, then in respect, then in reverence. The human who'd committed treason became the human who'd ended a war, not with weapons, but with the simple, radical act of showing mercy to something small and helpless. She stood now on the observation deck of Unity Station, watching Crithian and human ships patrol together, protecting the trade routes they'd once fought over. Kor stood beside her, fully grown now, magnificent in his maturity, his scales the deep amber gold that meant hope in his people's color language. "Do you regret it?" he asked. "Everything you sacrificed?" Ilara thought of her court-martial, her demotion, the death threats, the medals that came later, the endless diplomatic functions. She thought of Marcus, cold and dead on Titan. She thought of all the sons and daughters who'd lived, because one mother made an impossible choice. "No," she said simply. "I regret nothing." Kor's scales shimmered with love, and he rested his head on her shoulder, still seeking comfort from the human who'd found him crying in the ruins and decided that mercy mattered more than revenge. Outside, two species learned to build instead of destroy. Inside, a mother and her son watched their shared future unfold.